Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the podcast where you can be the host or not if you don't want to, and that's fine. I'm totally okay with that. I will blather on about things that I think are relevant and important, which could just be about anything, right? Halloween's coming up. What's funny is if you're on Amazon recently, which I'm sure you are because you're a human being or an American, or both maybe, in some cases anyway. And on Amazon, they're advertising right now that they've got a Halloween store. I recommend you go in there and sort by price, high to low, really quickly, and you'll find full metal suits of armor that you can purchase on there for $3,000. Pretty impressive. But in relevant news, my local HDI meeting recently was really good. We had a bunch of HDI Analyst of the Years on, and those analysts are elected or nominated by their managers and supervisors, usually someone that they work with. And they go through a process of screening to see if they're good service desk agents. So we had the last, it's coming up in December, so every local chapter kind of gives away this award at the end of the year, and then you compete at a regional level, which is a few states, and then you compete at a national level, which is all the states. And so what we did is, for our September meeting, is we had past winners and past nominees on, and the nominators on a panel in front of our local user group. It was really quite powerful, actually. We asked, of the winners and of the nominees, how did this impact your career? And it's just telling. I mean, some people have had 2 jobs since then and gotten promoted, and a lot of them talked about how it inspires them to be better teammates because their teammates are contributing to their nomination and giving them good feedback and saying, listen, this person's, best on our team or whatever. And so they find themselves either rising to the challenge or becoming better. Very interesting. If you haven't heard of it and you work at a service desk, you should go check it out. Because it's great for your career. So it's important for you. Specifically, don't wait for your manager to tell you have to go. Don't wait for your supervisor to tell you have to go. Don't wait for it to be a mandate. Go check it out. Check out HDI too. I mean, maybe the local chapter stinks. Maybe it doesn't. If you're in Minnesota, I can tell you it doesn't. I know. So come along. Check it out. The second thing I wanted to talk about real quickly today is recorded an ITSM weekly podcast this week, which was really interesting. It was great to catch up with Chris, and Hooper was there. It was great to be there and great to be a part of that. And I sort of remember how much I love working with those guys. Absolutely fantastic. We had an incredible conversation. Chris, as always, is blowing my mind every time I talk to him. It turns out that I surround myself with people that blow my mind. I always want to be challenged by new thoughts and new ideas. And I just, it took me 30 years to realize that those are the people that I want to hang out with. And so, great recording. Look for that to be released. I'm exporting it right now, actually, on my other computer, which is why my video looks a little bit different, because I'm using the MacBook Pro, which is right next to my Mini. But you can't see the Mini. Maybe at the end of this episode, I'll flip around the camera so you can actually see my setup. I added something recently. Okay, so more things I want to talk about. Specifically, ITSM Weekly. Yes, I surround myself with people that blow my mind. And so what I found is that the local networking groups that I'm a part of, HDI, ITSMF, DevOps, Minneapolis, there's tons of groups that I just love to pay attention to. The startup scene, whatever it is, it's getting too big. The events are too big. I can't talk to enough people fast enough. I don't have control over the venue. I don't have control over the attendees, what days and times stuff is going on. So I'm doing an experiment, and I started my own personal networking group. I had heard about this one time before. Someone that I know in sales does this too. He's a local Minnesota rep, and it sort of shocked me that it was happening. I love the idea of an exclusive group sort of dedicated to people that I know and love. So if you're in the Minneapolis area, definitely come check us out. We'll be meeting on Tuesday at 6 p.m. at the Surly Brewery. This Tuesday, yes, the 22nd. It's coming up. It'll be here very soon. We'll be there at 6 p.m. You're going to want to look for the tall, nerdy dude that looks a lot like this. Purple shirt sort of thing. But really, you know, nothing is, it's just like this podcast, right? Nothing is sacred. Nothing is holy. Let's question everything. Let's grow and learn together, because that's what this is about. And people who are inspired and love their jobs know that. So if you're one of those people, keep it up. And please come join me for a pint and maybe some brisket. I hear the brisket there is really good. I haven't been to that place yet, but huge brewery in Minnesota, bringing a lot of money into our economy. Good for them. Okay, so other news that's relevant, that's not so personal, is Malcolm Fry left Sharewell. Interesting post on LinkedIn. He's the one who broke the news, which is kind of cool, actually, if you think about it. And you really should do that if you're an evangelist. Said that it was amicable and whatever. It's not really drama when people leave companies anymore. I don't know if you've realized that yet, but I have, or I will. But we wish you well, Malcolm. I mean, you're obviously brilliant. Always love talking and listening to you. I'm interested to see what you're up to next. I hope it's writing. I hope it's innovating this industry, because Lord knows we haven't made it. What else did I want to talk about? WordPress. I'm a longtime fan of WordPress, as you may know. Found out something today that I had never really looked up before, which is stupid. Now, in hindsight, of course, I was being stupid. But I had no easy way to do change control for WordPress. So I found a way to do it, actually, if you Google, of course. Why didn't I do this earlier? But there's a way that you can point your index.php to different subfolders within WordPress. And I'll post the link in the show notes. If you don't have the show notes, go to hackbiztech.com. There's a link to our Evernote folder that hosts our show notes. But basically, the trick is you point it to different folders, and then those folders end up being stage and test and prod. And so you can take, what you do is instead of the folders being named that, you would name them other things like alpha, omega. That wasn't meant to be a religious reference. It just came out. Okay, so you've got omega, and that's production today, but you make all your changes on alpha. You clone from omega to alpha as much as you can, or as much as you need to, not as much as you can. And then you make your changes to alpha, let's say, and then one day you realize, okay, alpha's running better, we got this plugin installed, we made these changes, it's working better. And then you just point index.php from omega to alpha, and then it switches, right? Your test then becomes your production instance, and your production instance, well, you probably want to clone over, keep omega there for a few weeks as a disaster recovery in case you screw something up in alpha, or screwed something up in alpha, and then quickly point over to the other folder. So instead of you pointing to test and production, now this becomes production and that becomes test. You clone this way whenever you need to, and you're doing your updates over here. I thought it was interesting. I had never really considered it, mostly because I grew up learning WordPress from a personal perspective, not a professional perspective, and didn't really need change controls until more recently. My company will actually be switching web platforms to WordPress, which is really interesting and difficult and challenging, and it opens a whole nother door of security risk. And so we're still analyzing how to mitigate that. I mean, the idea is that you put up as many walls as you can, and then just detect and obfuscate from there. Really interesting post about Go Live cakes on LinkedIn today. I didn't think it would get as much traction as it did, but really interesting that sales rep basically said, we're going to start writing this into SOWs, not to post go live cakes on LinkedIn, or at least a consideration, like a checklist point, because that's the way that people get hacked. I don't know if you know the local retailer that got attacked recently. They're local to Minnesota anyway. They were targeted. Get it? Oh, that was terrible. But they were targeted through a vendor account, basically an HVAC vendor that they use had an account to a system, and they weren't controlling their passwords very well, or got phished, basically. And it was very interesting to hear the stories about that happening. And my only advice is just don't let everyone know who your vendors are. Pretty cut and dry, pretty simple. And that's it. That's all we have for Hacking Business Technology this week. I'm actually working on a all-employee meeting for my company, so I'm always looking for ideas on what you think would be good for your all-employee meeting. Send me a note, mattbarron@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your suggestions. What have you seen work at employee meetings? What have you seen work, or what have you desired at your all-employee meetings? I've certainly got a lot of ideas, and kind of have a rough sketch of what I think the event will be, but challenge what I'm thinking, because that's what I do this for, because I want to surround myself with people that are always going to be blowing my mind. And for that, I thank you. Thank you for Hacking Business Technology. We'll see you online. We'll see you next week.